Anything Wii U can do, Switch can do better. It can do much more than you think it can do. Welcome to the new series, Anything Wii U Can Do, Switch Can Do Better, where we look at all the things that the Wii U can do and imagine how the Switch can do them better. I'm your host, Jeffrey. Welcome, and you are watching Gamestork. I am so excited to be bringing you this series that's going to be great, looking back at all the Wii U games that quote-unquote weren't supposed to run on that console, as we're seeing the exact same argument made right now with games that are current generation being able to run on the Nintendo Switch. Now, despite the fact that the Wii U was extremely limited, it still had some late ports and entries onto the console that were really impressive, considering the current console generation of the time. Now, looking back, let's just start out by pointing out the Switch is much more powerful and better built than its predecessor, the Wii U. It runs on a heavily modified NVIDIA Tegra X1 processor. Now, a lot of people would argue, because of the X-rays and all that they've seen, that this thing is not heavily modified, that it is stock. Well, we don't know. We don't know anything for sure yet. Nothing has been verified, I suppose you would say. But this provides a whole lot of oomph in the CPU and the GPU stakes. So either way, this NVIDIA Tegra X1 gives much more power to the Nintendo Switch. And Nintendo hasn't revealed the actual abilities of the chipset or the customized chipset. Even the unmodified version has a quad-core 64-bit CPU and an NVIDIA Maxwell 256-core GPU. Its video output for media is capable of up to 4K running at 60 frames per second, and although games are locked to a maximum of 1080p, 60 frames per second, they still will look really good running on the Nintendo Switch. The Wii U, on the other hand, has a 1.24 GHz tri-core IBM CPU and a 550 MHz Radeon GPU. It's hard to pin down the exact difference between the two, but needless to say, the Switch is much more powerful, even though it is effectively using a mobile chipset. And this is what gets everyone and, just catches them off guard with this, is the fact that this thing is running a mobile-based chipset and is delivering on the power that it has. The Switch is said to be running 4 GB of RAM, as we do see that it is, while the Wii U only had 2 GB of RAM. So, getting this out of the way, now we see the Nintendo Switch is much more powerful. We're going to focus on one game per video in this series, and this time I have chosen a wonderful game that had a very big world, lots of things in order to load, that was not supposed to be able to run on the Wii U, and the name of this game was Mass Effect 3. Now, Mass Effect 3 is a lot of people's favorite game of the series. Most people love 3, and they didn't really care for the new one. Whether you loved or hated 3, you have to recognize the fact that this was a really big, ambitious game. And for that generation's consoles, this would be the equivalent of looking at the new Mass Effect Andromeda and saying, no, that could never run on the Nintendo Switch. Well, here's the kicker. Mass Effect 3 was running on the Wii U, with the Wii U only having 1 GB of RAM free to run games on its console. That's right, 1 gig of RAM. Now, we've read before about how Capcom wanted the RE engine to run on the Nintendo Switch, and they said in order to do that, the console would have to have 4 GB of RAM. So Nintendo answered in turn and put 4 GB of RAM in this console, and I'm very thankful that they did. This comparison shows that on 1 gig of RAM at this graphic capability, now imagine taking this with you anywhere on the go just as it is as a port. A Mass Effect 3 port not only is capable of happening for the Nintendo Switch, but it would also look over twice as good, and it would be able to run twice the graphics in handheld mode. We're looking at something that delivers upon power. Now, some people are saying, no, this is last generation. I've seen a lot of those comments before about last generation games. But the fact is, who wouldn't want to pick up a console who has a mobile chipset that can run things at this capability, this Wii U's graphical capability, times 2? That means that a lot of this generation's console games can run. And this Mass Effect 3, it looks wonderful. It looks beautiful on the Wii U. And this is just off 1 GB of RAM running. Now, we could break down the internal components all day of the Nintendo Switch and say this, or the GPU or the CPU, but the fact is, they've designed this in such a way that what comes out of that console, what pops up on the screen, looks really good, and it's really strong, and it has great cooling, and everything in there is just right in order to give us the best experience possible. So looking back, Mass Effect 3, you didn't belong on the Wii U. That's what everyone said. If you don't believe me, go back in time, look at social media, dig back into the discussions at the time at the launch of the Wii U, and the same arguments were being made about all these games that are going to be focused on right here inside of this series. Now the thing is hey, they were put on the Wii U, and the reason that they failed on the Wii U is because they came like 2 years later. It wasn't that no one wanted them on the system, it was that they were really late. But the fact is they optimized these games for the system. Now, just to show you that these games were just as beautiful as their counterparts, I put this video in the background so that you could see that in relation to the PlayStation 3, this game looks almost identical. It looks very similar. Now imagine the Nintendo Switch pushing twice the power, if not more, on the go. And this is what's impressive to me. It should be impressive to you. And we will look at another game next time. This right now, just the idea of Mass Effect 3 being ported over, not saying that this is even a thing happening, but the fact is looking at this, we know that Mass Effect Andromeda could run, because this one wasn't supposed to run at the time, and if this game can run on 1 GB of RAM, then that means Mass Effect Andromeda can most definitely run on 3. Now most people are saying, now that doesn't make any sense. That's just looking outside of the box and saying, hey, this could happen without any evidence. Well, the thing is, the evidence is in the fact that this game wasn't supposed to run, and they optimized it to run on 1 GB of RAM as opposed to the 4 offered from the PS3. They can do the same thing by going down to 4 GB of RAM from the 8. There are ways to make these games run, and everything that this Wii U could do, as we point out, the Switch can do better. The Switch can hang with this generation. I'm excited to be a fan of the Switch, on top of being a PlayStation fan and also an Xbox fan. And I hope that games like this come so that we can take them on the go. So to all the third parties out there, please optimize your games for the Nintendo Switch, because all of those ports, if released at the same time, will sell well, and the Switch has the power to just do them better. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tune in next time to see which game we look at on our next episode of Anything the Wii U Could Do, Switch Can Do Better. Be sure to like and subscribe below if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I certainly appreciate you, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to help to improve the quality of content on this channel and also help to make content come out faster, please go to this link at gofundme.com/Gamestork to help me replace the equipment needed in order to make this channel better. Again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and if nothing else, just be sure to watch, like, and subscribe. Thanks again. Bye.